All users be advised, participation in these extreme sports comes at your own risk. Check out Mallory's Rectory Pros for more information.
I wake up every minute with the fever dreams. I push my mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss. See, I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast.
Welcome back to our post-class review. I'm your host, Curtis Johnston, known on the streets, which I run, of course, as the driver, Big Curdy J. They call me the driver because of how I get results, through my decisiveness and competitiveness. Anyway, let's bring on my best friend, Nathan Gerber. Everybody give it up for Nathan Gerber. Yeah, previously known as Natty G, 3-time gold medalist for being the most empathetic. He brushes off the haters by saying, haters gonna hate, but he understands where they be coming from because he got that empathy. Yeah! Woo! All right, our next host for this evening's post-class review is Madeline Jones, the master of mindfulness, also where she coined her name, Dandy Mandy.
Dandy Mandy, sitting in the sun.
Let's go. That's what I like to hear. I'm going to give it up for Madeline. Woo! And least but not last, we have the one and only Mallory Sealing, 3-time gold trophyist in the art of flexing on these haters. We'll hear more about flexing in a second, in our second section, style flexing. Anyway, here's how this episode of post-class review is going to look. We're going to start off by discussing Robert Bolton's problem styles at work. You can see that right here. That's right. Then we're going to work our way into style flexing and much, much more. Sit tight and lock in for this episode of Post-Class Review. All right, everybody, let's get into it. Talking about styles and backup styles from Robert Bolton's People Styles at Work. Let's get into it. Anybody have any quick thoughts on the topic?
You know what? I am just still not sure what styles and backup styles really mean. I don't really have strong opinions about them right now.
Well, in general, Robert Bolton splits the styles into 4 different categories. That being driver, expressive, amiable, and analytical. That's right, yeah. And each of those have different characteristics to them and things that come along with them. But it's put on a scale of assertiveness and responsiveness, and emotional responsiveness, I'm pretty sure.
It helps us understand why we do what we do, why we communicate with other people, how we communicate. For example, for me, expressive, now I know why I don't listen very well.
That's right, we can use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I myself am a little less assertive. I'm an amiable, and that's kind of what my style is known for.
Mm-hmm. The importance of styles. Let's get into this. So today, Jonah ran a site visit to the National Cascade Institute, which was super cool. We had a really, really fun time, although it was a kind of a long drive. But we got to meet with Megan, who's the current manager of the Northwest Cascade Institute. And who is it? She's a former phaser. And there's a couple things she really highlighted from her time in rec about 10 years ago. And one of the things she highlighted was actually Robert Bolton's People Styles at Work, and how she still goes back to that book today and references it, and how when she's training staff, that's a primary thing that she trains her staff on, is what styles are, what backup styles are, how do you deal with that, how does that really change your interactions with people, and at least how you understand them.
Mm-hmm. So this is really useful stuff that in this book that we're reading about.
Yeah, it really goes in depth to kind of the entirety of how you work with people. And as we can see from Megan, she still uses it 10 years after learning it, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other thoughts when it comes to styles?
Yeah, in terms of like backup styles, typically for me as an amiable, when I'm stressed, I would revert to being an expressive, which means I like attack when I'm really stressed. But I'm curious to see what other people's backups are.
I attack initially,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. And then when I'm in my backup style, I often kind of slide backwards, recluse a little bit, and kind of hide. But my initial is attack.
All up front in their face is what I like to hear as a driver anyway.
You know, I'm with Madeline. I'm also an amiable, and I think I tend to in my backup style I tend to kind of get really mad.
Yeah. I just kind of stop telling people what I'm going to do, or I guess initially I just tell them exactly what I'm going to do and I just do it. And then after I get frustrated, I just start doing things and I'll deal with the rest later, you know. I'll deal with the backlash, but it's easier to just get it done on my own, deal with it and move on.
Get her done.
Get her done, that's
Get her
what I like
done.
to hear.
Mhm.
Yeah, any final thoughts when it comes to styles and backup styles?
Important stuff. Now we know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now I
now you
know.
know.
Now you guys know, that's right. Well, let's move into style flexing. Does anybody care to explain exactly what style flexing is?
I would love to. Big Curly J. Style flexing was really interesting. Now that I know more about styles and backup styles, I feel like I truly understand style flexing. But it's when you're working with another person and you may not be very compatible with them in the workplace, but if you style flex and match their style more, they may be more receptive to what you're saying and what you're trying to get across. And I feel like as an amiable, I do this a lot in a lot of like my workplace interactions. I tend to kind of like convert to the other person's style to make work easier for both of us.
I'm going to kind of argue your point. I'm going to say it's also based on how you, like what situation you might be in, right? If you need to be more assertive and you need to get people's attention, maybe it's not really about what other people's styles are, but more about what is required in the situation. If you need to get people's attention, right, pretty quickly, you might have to be a little bit more in the driver's side. If you need to be pretty aware of somebody's emotional state and not just kind of like go, 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 maybe you need to kind of step back and do more of an amiable role, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I will admit, I was a little confused at first when we started talking about the style flexing, but after hearing both your guys' thoughts, I think that I kind of am agreeing with what you're saying. I think that if I were in a workplace situation, I think that I definitely would flex in a situation that I tend to kind of take on a more assertive role and kind of get things done when they need to be done, rather than like sitting back and things like that.
Most workplaces, working with other people is so important. And style flexing is just how to work well with other people, how to understand other people, how to help other people understand you and get on their level.
Or them get on yours.
Or them get on yours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, wise words.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What can I say? Well, I have a question for you guys, something I've been wondering about, something I've been playing with in the old mind. When it comes to like styles and especially style flexing, there's definitely a concept that, you know, some styles are better for this situation over this, and like some styles might get better in a general overall status for this over this, or whatever it may be. But I think it's very, very valuable to be able to kind of flex into all styles when needed, right? So what do you guys think about the idea of you ideally want to sit kind of centrally in the responsiveness, assertiveness scale, and then be able to flex into any style at any given time? Thoughts on that?
one could say some flexible style flexing.
Well, yeah, I think you have a good point there. I definitely think that it is possible for people to kind of have a spectrum and kind of move along that assertive line. I think for myself personally, I definitely do that depending on the situation. Even though for the most part I am an amiable, I do have the ability to become a driver when needed, or an analytical or an expressive, like in my backup style, like I mentioned earlier. But, yeah.
Yeah, this is an interesting theory. You know, Bolton doesn't talk much about this idea in his book, but you bring up some valid points that we're not just our styles, and we can flex where we need to flex.
Yeah.
I think some roles definitely flex more than others. Like if you're working with children, you gotta flex to be on their level, or else they'll get intimidated or scared, or they won't understand what you're saying. But if you're working with adults, they've been through more, they have more years behind them, they can kind of just deal with wherever you are a little bit more, and you maybe don't need to flex as much. So that's definitely something too. Depending on where you are, you definitely style flex a lot more. So during the summer, I work with kids, I'm style flexing all the time, and one could say a flexible style flexor.
No, style flex, yeah.
And then I come to class, maybe not so much. I just sit there in my own style.
This could also be known as workplace yoga. That's right, I'm coining that term, so please don't steal it because I will sue you.
I am coining the term workplace style yoga.
Good ball, full. All good.
That's right.
Are we?
Oh. Well, that's all we had on style flexing and style and backup styles, but go check out our app from our sponsor, Red Blue. That's right, or Blue Bowl. I don't remember what it's called, but I was come back after our ad break, and we're going to talk about the 3 core conditions, right? And the mind and some mindfulness stuff, right? Awareness wheel, style flexing. What does it mean to be mindful? Come back after the break.
Blue ball.
Sexy!
Well, let's move on to mindfulness. I feel like we've kind of exhausted the topic of the 3 core conditions. But when it comes to mindfulness, what are some of the things that we've talked about in this class that really, come up firsthand?
Well, help me out, guys, because this one, I just don't get it. Mindfulness, a wheel? How could a wheel be mindful?
I assume you're talking about the awareness wheel, Nathan, right?
The awareness
wheel.
Yes, the awareness wheel, it's a really cool way to practice mindfulness in the moment. It's just as I statement, so like I think or I sense, I feel and I do and so much more. But it's really helpful to like calm yourself down in the moment and actually think through what you're dealing with and how you're gonna go about like fixing your situation.
But you could just ignore it, right? Just keep on moving, like why?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you ignored it, then I think eventually it would just be built up, and then you won't really know the tools to work through that, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's important to, understand yourself and others, and that will help you get through situations.
So being mindful, understanding, working through, moving on.
Yeah, and
Wow.
the awareness wheel won't work for everybody. I understand that you're not fond of it, Nathan, but I mean, there are other ways to be mindful. Do you have any ways that you're mindful?
I try and work to just understand the world around me and others and why others are the way they are. Empathy, good way to practice mindfulness to me. That's kind of why I chose it for that blog.
I think that some ways that I'm mindful, just as other examples, I like to journal every once in a while. I think taking myself on walks, especially sitting by the water, is a very peaceful thing that I like to do. And then yoga. Yoga is very beneficial.
Yeah, I was gonna say yoga as
Definitely
well.
recommend.
Yeah.
Maybe hot yoga.
A little bit of morning yoga,
Physical fitness,
Yeah.
mindfulness.
Yeah.
some meditation in the morning.
Oh yes.
The whole wheel is
A little
restored.
music with that too.
Yeah.
Cold plunge? I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I know you cold plunge. You want to dive into that maybe a little bit?
Yes, I love cold plunging. That's a great way to experience mindfulness because, you know, in the moment, you're not thinking of anything other than, wow, it's really cold right now. It kind of clears your mind. You feel like a new person afterwards almost. It's really wonderful. I love cold plunging. Yes.
It's pretty awesome, yeah. Well, mindfulness, a real impactful thing. Keeping our minds awake, being aware. It's crazy what it can do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it brings you into the present, you know, like sometimes we're thinking about the past or thinking about maybe the upcoming projects we have or finals, and sometimes just being in the present and doing that is really helpful and kind of de-stresses our life a little bit.
Yeah. Well, anybody have anything else on when it comes to mindfulness?
Yes. You
Wonderful.
know, recreation is a great way to be mindful. And at Mallory's Repertory Pros, we have all the equipment you can use to be mindful. So come down to Mallory's Recreation Pros and get some rec equipment.
Join us next week, next year, next month, next something, right? Again, we're mindful. We're living in the present moment. We don't care about the next. We don't care about the past. We just care about the here and now.
We are here and we will be here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you guys know where to find us. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on TikTok. You know, Facebook, LinkedIn especially. Yeah, because those posts are going to be pretty good, right? Yeah, you guys know what's up.
Check
That's
out
right.
Anchor, Spotify, dropping bars.
Yeah, I'd be dropping that. It'd be happening. Check out the Rec Instagram page. You know, I was on there talking about things, why you should join the Rec major. So, give me a shout out, repost. You know what I'm saying. That's all I got. Any last words from our fine and dandy hosts?
No, thanks for joining.
Drink
I'm pretty
Blue Ball.
dandy right now.
So wonderful. Well, this has been Post-Class Review. I'm Curtis Johnston.
Nathan Gerber.
Madeline Jones.
And Mallory Seelig.
Over and out. And competitiveness. Out here giving us wheels when we had
They
shoes.
fuel our mindfulness.
That's right.
Yeah.
They fuel our mindfulness.
Oh my God.
Is anybody specifically keen on eating out of the bag?
So,
A fake smile.
Welcome back. We are practicing solar.
To Malatoy's Regulatory Adventures. Shout out to Red Blue and Blue Red and Blue Bowl, right? All of them. all of them, right? They really fuel our hopes and dreams. Yeah.
all of your sports and things.